Wassail, beautiful people. I need my glasses. I didn't mean to press live and then it was live and let me go and get my glasses. That's better. It's a bit nippy here this morning. Wassail à Francesca en Paris or en français. So you got 17 names now. So, I am here. That's all right. Wassail Cheney, Wassail Blue Jean Natalie. So, still quite early in the morning here, and I thought I would just go live and see who we catch around the world, share some messages. Wassail Nikki McClendon music. It's Holy Week in Quito, and they do a lot of very amazing festivals. And every time I look up what time they are, everyone just copy and pasted the same article saying it all starts on the 2nd, on Palm Sunday. But no one tells you the time. So I'm not sure whether once this is done and I try and go out, whether I find anyone, or whether I might just be too overwhelmed by the energy of people parading around in their very strange purple outfits that I find a little uncomfortable because of the very look that they're all marching round in. It's a really weird thing. I have a curiosity. I want to sense how many people in a city of many millions takes part in this. I have a curiosity, but I also have trepidation of the level of the crowds, that sense of being really, a bit oversensitive sometimes about being. I'm very good at blocking energies out, but recently it's part of that Egel Shamir thing. It's sometimes you overprotect yourself and sometimes you need to let energy flow through you. And I'm not sure if I could watch it, if I was a drone and I could just hover over the scene and not feel all the jostle of everybody, I might be more interested in going. Me as a drone with my vertigo is probably also not the best idea. So I've got my hat on at the moment until I warm up because it's a bit nippy. It was only 8 degrees this morning. And I have got some coffee. I bought a new water bottle the other day because my water bottle I have. Yeah, it's just because Jamie, sometimes when you go through being honest with people, it just opens you up to a different energy. And I do need to be able to admit that I'm not laughing all day long, every day. I laugh a lot, but there are moments when grief and loneliness takes hold of you, and sometimes you need to admit that. And I feel as though sometimes I put too much pressure on myself to be the uplifter with everybody. I don't want to ever bring anyone down. I never have wanted to do that. I mean, usually if I'm feeling low, I hide. And I felt I needed to just wassail. I just felt that I needed to be a little more honest, because I think people think I'm some kind of emotional Teflon. The last thing I am is emotional Teflon. I'm so sensitive that it hurts. So look, I bought a new water bottle that can go in the fridge. It has a big crystal in it. And I know some people say you should have the crystal in a separate chamber, but I like it. I really want to drink the magical crystal water. Yeah, I also, it's interesting, Cheney. I feel like I've been reading titles of other people's readings at the moment, and I think people are struck with an uncomfortable darkness that they're expressing to their viewers. And I don't want to express a darkness that has no sense of light inside it to transform. So even doing the message the other day about admitting that you can feel lonely and loss and grief and isolation, it was so that I can find, you know, the title of it was to journey out of that, to recognize the need to move on. And I just feel at the moment, there's a lot of changes going on, but I think we're not, as readers, giving people a way out. We're almost encouraging people to wallow in a gloom. I don't want to be in a gloom. I'm always the optimist, never the pessimist. It doesn't matter how pessimistic, I can always see the brighter side of things. So that to me seems the most important thing. Wassail Eve. So yeah, good messaging. That's what we want. So I've got some other decks to go with Liffruma today, because I've been obviously doing so many things where I only use the deck, but I want you all to have your copies of the deck because I want to show you how to use the Liffruma in so many different ways, but you need your decks and you'll be getting them soon. But today I thought I would bring out the Golden Tarot of the Renaissance that I bought in Buenos Aires. And because I feel like, oh, look there, that one's been following me around recently. From another deck, from the Paul Hewson deck. I just need to show you because they're so very similar. So there's something, I don't use this golden, there's some disturbing images in it. There's an image of castration and it comes up and you look at it and you just kind of think, So I'm gonna mix and match today and we're gonna get started, and we are looking for optimistic messages. A little bit of optimism, and then I might have a wander into the town, charge my phone, and if I do stumble upon the procession, I'll record some of it, maybe go live, see what goes on. Might be a bit weird wandering around with the phone because they keep saying you have to be careful of tea leaves, and I keep saying to everyone you have to be careful of tea leaves everywhere, but apparently this is a very crowded, very small, narrow streets. We'll see. It's not my frequency to be robbed. It's not a frequency I'm inviting into my life ever. So, Liffruma, let's begin today with some optimism for everyone. What do you want to tell people? What do you want to share with the crowd? So yesterday I went on I don't know whether any of you see Wassail green leaf. I went and tested my vertigo again. I went so high up a mountain. I feel like I didn't do too badly, but there were moments when Wassail Olga, where I did think I was going to throw up. The weirdest part was I was better looking obviously away from the city, but also looking at the hill, not down. As soon as I looked down and then looking at the hill, and that's when I noticed that the cable car has only one wire. So if this wire breaks, there's no safety wire. This is, who said that was a good way to create a cable car? Surely there should be a safety wire. Anyway, I did it and I won't do it again. So, here we go. Liffruma, give us a lovely positive energy. There's nothing more positive than awakening. Originating, waking up to our own frequency. But there's something within this energy that is about passing by the gloom. Because the poem, which I did read the other day, begins with so much room for yawning, sprawling, gloomy, slow, pointless, lifeless moments in time that we call living. And that's almost a sort of, I read this morning that there's a new trend on TikTok for people sharing the mundane moments of their commute and their boring, miserable lives. And it's people sort of saying, this is my really ordinary job I do, but I love it. And obviously the companies that these people work for are loving it, because there might be 1 million people look at a very short clip of saying how much they love being subservient in their life to some kind of corporation. And I would say, wake up. Or I would say, you're so young, you don't know yet. And I know, it's that phrase again. The young think the old are foolish, whereas the old know the young are. I don't know the truth within that spectrum. But I can remember the enthusiasm when I first went to work at 17. And I think that there's something where we just need to wake up. I feel like, as I was saying earlier, I've been looking at other readers whose videos appear in my feed when I'm posting, and there's an awful lot of gloom mongering going on. We have to stop gloom mongering. We have to really stop doing that. We have to decide to move into a different energy. So in my very earliest videos that I was doing before I set off, when I was in Hastings and I used to sit in the park, I could feel two different energies in the world. And there was an energy of a sort of high snow globe kind of frequency that was just misting and floating and cascading and bouncing and reacting to everyone. But inside all of those particles was fear and this gloom mongering. Might have to keep using gloom mongering. Telling might need to get back down to sea level soon. I have enough oxygen. I truly have enough oxygen. So yeah, gloom mongering. I feel like there's a lot of people dismantling dreams. Oh, that's another interesting thing. Dismantling dreams. We might have to run that down. Gloom. Yeah, gloom. Gloom. Olga, gloom. There's also a thing called a gloam, the gloaming, which is the light at dusk when it's not quite as there. What did you just say there? No, exactly. It's not anything to do with that. I'm willing to accept that we have to acknowledge gloom, Eve, when it comes up. I just feel at the moment there's too much of it. I feel that people, videos where people will say things like, this isn't resolved, you've got to, someone's doing this. Why would you put bad energy in someone's head? Surely, if there's something that someone needs to face, we need to assist helping people to move past something. So, we can say it's about poking people to come true, but there can be that uncomfortable energy of self-fulfilling prophecies. And we just need to waken up and originate our own thoughts. So going back to the gloomy fear that's everywhere, underneath that, I've always sensed this very slow and comfortable energy of love. This energy that rides it. It's much harder to walk in that energy of love. People find it difficult. People find an expression of love uncomfortable. I can remember the first time, the earliest moments when I kept saying to people when I was talking to them and would say, I love you very much at the end of conversations and would offer love. That energy can hit people very uncomfortably. And I would say as well that many people, when they hear an expression of love, find it very difficult to believe, because obviously we all have had moments where it hasn't quite worked out. Yeah, it's true, Eve. We do have to check ourselves, but I think that's the difference. Whatever uncomfortable energy enters my life, I try to face it and I try not to let it into my readings, because, even doing my little vertigo thing yesterday, that's challenging myself to deal with the fear. And I haven't won that battle yet, but it gets better every time I do it. Every time I do it. But yeah, so I would say waken to your own loving truth, and don't be frightened to express love, because there are a lot of people out there who will try and pull that love carpet from underneath you. And I said, it does feel like the energy of love is the energy closest to the grounding of the earth when you walk. That's that energy of treadle, that energy of stepping with well-intentioned, loving footsteps everywhere you walk. And I think there are lots of people out there. Look, fear is a money generator, because it makes people frightened and people seek solutions from their fears. And people are willing to pay for it. So sometimes, if you are only ever giving loving, beautiful, positive messages, some people will just switch off to them. They won't hear it. And this deck will poke you, but it will offer you solutions as well. Whereas I think a lot of people, part of branding themselves is to hook you into a fear and then offer you a little bit of hope. I want to offer you all the hope you can absorb. Because to me, that's the way we go forwards. Wassail, surrender to the flow, tarot. So let's... Why can't I breathe today? I'm going to have some of my crystal water. It's from the fridge, so it's getting condensation on it and you can't see my lovely greenish quartz. I'm doing green because I'm trying to get in touch with Saturn, because Saturn's in a weird trine with Mars. Mars is separating from it. But we've also had Venus and Uranus in Taurus in conjunction. There's a lot of big energy going on. It's hard to breathe up at the mountain at 4,000 meters. So, waken, originate. What else, Liffruma, to go with this energy? I just want to somehow, I need to express the pain and the hurt that expressing love can bring towards you, because of people not liking to see that loving, caring energy in another. You know, people can have that frequency where they don't appreciate seeing that in another, so they get their shadow weapons out. They get their psychic arrows out, I was going to say, but actually this is the perfect energy. Allow, you know, people will take aim, but within that aim, if you can just catch one of their psychic arrows and actually analyze it, there's gold inside that energy. It's almost, you can see a correlation between these two symbols. You can almost transform the shadows into being awakened. And that's the point of healing, is to transform something, to move it forwards. So I'm just going to pull some more, because I like to do little napkins, because I often talk about things in embroidery terms with Liffruma, because of the fact that the Norns give you a tapestry when you're born. Yeah, that's also true. The undeserving is an energy that people become used to being patterned into. So let's get 2 more cards on this. Nearly warming up as I'm channeling now, because the heat's coming in. Be able to take my hat off in a minute. Yeah, I wake at 3 a.m. often. I'm trying to go to bed earlier and earlier, so that if I wake at 3 a.m, I'm like, oh well, I've had enough sleep now. It's interesting here being on the equator, because really it's day and night is almost of equal length, always. So it's very easy to find a sleep pattern. Whereas if you live somewhere off the equator, you know, at different times of the year, the day and the night are different lengths of time. It's not letting me have 2 more at the moment. It's the Swelgeness. Swelgeness card, it just never goes away. I'm going to pick it up before I get the last card. There it is. That is one of the Norns that I was just talking about, the tapestry weavers. This is the past. So this is Urður. And this is that whirlpool of endless, well, actually, as you said, Olga, that non-deserving energy. This, you know, your own Swelgeness is your own truth. You will all know the things from your past, the patterns that you replay endlessly over and over again. And Swelgeness in Old English means whirlpool. Something swirling and whirling around you. And it's grabbed you. It grabbed you really so young. And it plays with you. It toys with you. Take that off now because I'm warming up. I didn't want to get out of bed this morning. It was so cold. So, let's get the final card of the napkin. There we go. Hey, how perfect is that? See, there's the optimism. This is the point of this deck. The optimism is Wendhorn. To unbind. Wendhorn is very strongly associated with moon cycles. And remember, the moon rattles around the earth every 27.3 days or whatever it is. And it goes through every single zodiac sign, spending 2 or 3 days in them, but affecting you emotionally because obviously each zodiac sign is a different house for you. So it's about unbinding from those patterns and cycles, changing the way you feel about them. Screaming. Screaming is a really important. Wailing. I used that a lot yesterday, screaming. Which no one found very interesting or funny, except me and Joanna. But we were saying that it was interesting when we got to the top of the mountain and we got onto that bit where the swing was. Everyone did that in a kind of silence. Obviously, it's such a unique space to be on a swing 4,000 meters high, swinging over the edge, looking at a city that's far, far, far below you. And everyone needs to be videoed. But because of social media, I get that sense that people can't bring themselves to experience something that they feel might be making a fool of themselves. Now, making a fool of myself is something I do so well. So it doesn't frighten me. You know, on the way up, we had other people in the carriage and they were so annoyed because I was, you know, nearly being sick and all of that kind of energy. And I did say to the guy before, it might be sensible to put me in a carriage on my own because I've got really bad vertigo. I'll just go with my friend Joanna so that we can travel up. And he wouldn't have it. On the way down, the woman met us. So then I was able to really, really scream. So here is the napkin. Now, what I would say is interesting is the diagonals. So you've got this darkness and you've got this darkness here. But between those two, you've got all of this brightness. So one of the things that I like to do, and that's the perfect way of showing it, is to move the cards around. So there's nothing, within Liffruma, there's nothing sacred. So sometimes we're presented with cards, with a message. Awaken the gold within the shadows, the nutrients within the darkness, the positive energies within your fears. Yeah, all right, I've still got vertigo. But every time I do it, it gets a little easier and I'm a little less sick. Or I observe something else about that frequency. And look, I went on that swing yesterday and actually you can't hear it very well in the video, but watching others swinging on it and then swinging on it myself was far more or far less traumatic. And I didn't do it for long because there was queues of people waiting and, you know, children. You don't want the big kid, the adult kid, taking up all the time. But it was a pleasant experience because swings are something very comforting that we've done from very early on. And yet I've never swung on the edge of a huge height. But the swing itself maybe gave me comfort. It was more comfortable on the swing than it was in the cable car. But rearranging my thoughts. So you take the Liffruma deck and you move the cards. So I'm going to move them. I'm going to put these first. So the shadows of the past need unbinding so that you can wake up. So this is about, any message you get has to be processed in your mind. You have to work out what any experience means to you and you alone. It doesn't matter that all the other people in that gondola floating in the air up a mountain were completely fine with the energy. I wasn't, but the fact that they were didn't make a difference to me, because I have to process and experience that just as you do in your own mind. So that's how we need to look at it. How do we do it? You have to, to begin with, it's identifying, it's awakening to patterns, Eve. Spotting patterns. Look, I know my patterns are that I have vertigo, so I don't go near the edge of things. Even if you were following me on Instagram, I went into a spiral shopping centre and it fascinated me and I wanted to take a picture, but to take a picture, I had to go close to the edge to turn the camera up and see. Going close to the edge, and I was only up 2 floors, I wasn't up, I don't know however many it is in a spiral because it's continuous, but it was a lot of floors. But for me, quite often, fencing that people put in are very low. So as a tall person, my centre of gravity, my hips, sticks up higher than most of the barriers. So there's a real sense that I could topple over barriers. It also, interestingly, here in Ecuador, there's not always barriers. I mean, around the edge of that mountain, there were just some wooden posts. They didn't have a joining area. And the notion is you're responsible for your own fears and your own safety. And so you have to act accordingly. But when I want to go near the edge of something, I feel my legs buckling, not necessarily from fear, but there is an energy of fear. But it's to get my body, my centre of gravity lower so that I don't feel that I will topple over a low barrier. And I don't know what you do. If you put high barriers in everywhere, then small children don't get to see. So it's very difficult, but I have to brace myself sometimes, and I'm learning to transform that pattern. So I'm appreciating now that the buckling is a safety measure, and I act accordingly. Even holding my phone over the edge of something will fill me with this idea that I might let go of it and lose the phone. So there are all these small patterns that you need to observe so that you can shift how you think about them. So we've shifted. I want to say as well, sometimes we think of shadows and darkness as being something full of fear. I've said this before, people are afraid of the dark because much of our storytelling, horror films are always about something in the dark waiting to get you. And actually I don't have the fear of the dark anymore, which is interesting. I have a fear of heights, which I never had, and I used to have a fear of the dark. I'm working on them. So I've dealt with the darkness one because to me, darkness is a wonderful secluded space in which you can explore possibilities. So to me, that's a good energy. So we're unbinding to waken. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this card first. Waken and unbind. And then I'm putting the swelgeness and the shadows, and I'm going to draw 2 more cards to cover them up and see if the next cards offer solutions to how to rethink the space of your shadows. And you can do this with tarot and all kinds of other things. I tell you what's interesting about emojis. There's a weird group of emoji makers who are not the most diverse group of people, but they have a rule, which is they never remove an emoji once it's been made. So things like floppy disks still exist, even though no one really has any use for them. And it also means that they were emojis are something that took so long to put in a greater diversity, and that's something which, you know, we need to do in everything. Wassail, beautiful people. Sorry, we've got a really interesting, to cover Nide, we've got Raza. Now Raza is a Nide rune, but it's a stun rune, meaning that it has a different pronunciation in the medieval period. But it's also, it's the perfect one because Raza is to explore. And if you think of the darkness as being an energy that's not the light, but the space to explore how far you can press your own light to create a transformation. So that's a really beautiful energy going on these two. I'm just we've been on nearly for 40 minutes. We've only got 5 cards. So I'm looking for a card to cover the swelgeness. Ideal would be Verdandi or Scald, one of the other Norns. But Liffruma will have its own choice. I can't manipulate this deck remotely. And when I try to, all the magic drains out. Oh, you see, if you just let it do what it wants to do, you get the most beautiful messages. So the swelgeness is being covered over with win. I've started calling it une because it's a double U. And a double U in the old French sounds, because language developed. I mean, I don't think that there are any words in Spanish, unless they're borrowed from another language, that have a W and a K. You don't use Ks or Ws in Spanish, or I've not seen them when wandering around. But so a double U was 2 U's. So not just U, but U lengthened. Une. And it might be une years ago, but we don't know. So you can say it how you want. It can just be win, but it's bliss and comfort. So if you can conquer your fear to look at shadows and see it as an exploration of nutrients, gold, and how far you can stretch your light, then you can see that your swelgeness, once explored properly, is really just an exploration of where you can find your joy, where you can find your bliss, rather than thinking of it. And that goes right back to that very first message of all that chaos. So really, these two, they're all of that fear that rolls around, that's set up for us to experience in our world to kind of keep us trapped in that snow globe of trauma. At the bottom, underneath, if you can waken to it and unbind yourself, it's just pure exploration of bliss. But you have to decide in your mind where that bliss is. You decide. But it's there. So look, a dark, gloomy, frightening message turned into something so beautiful. So that's the first one. Let's do another one and see where Liffruma gets us. I don't think we're using this one. I think it was a reference that it wanted to make of seeking perfection with the world card. Seeking solutions, reaching the end of a large arcana cycle. And arcana is esoteric secret wisdom. So, Wassail's a lonely snowflake. So, just give me a moment to breathe. Talk among yourself for a minute. I need to... I think when you have... yes, close the arcana cycle. Exactly, Olga. That's what people need to do. I think when you're having altitude problems, I think there's something... I was trying to express yesterday that whenever I'm having altitude problems, it's not about me drawing in more oxygen. I have to do this action. It feels like I need to clear the carbon dioxide out of my lungs to make space for the oxygen. It's about somehow for me clearing, my nose, clearing the darkness. Also remember, when we blow out carbon dioxide, trees, they love our carbon dioxide and they'll turn the carbon dioxide into oxygen. So that's a symbiotic relationship. Quite a bit of a stiff neck there. Yeah, me too. I need to expel. It's not, I expel and then I deep stomach breathe. It's not like I've ever passed out in high altitudes. But the highest I've ever been, there's treadle that I talked about. The highest I've ever been is 5,000 meters. And that was after having been in Cusco for a month or so or more, going up to Puno, Lake Titicaca, going even higher when I went on that lovely island and visited Pachacatl and Pachamama. And then in order to get to where I was next going, we had to go over a pass that was 5,000 feet. And it was freezing up there. It was so much colder. But I didn't pass out. All I had was a very bloody, crusty nose, which drove me mad. So, let's go with another message. Let me just pour myself a little bit of coffee. Cheers, people. That was interesting. I can see a vein. I don't have any veins that show through my skin. It's very interesting. When I go for any kind of blood test, oh God, they miss. They can't find my veins. And so they needle me so many times. In the end, you just go, oh, I can't look at them when they do it. See, there's another fear, needles. And yet, it's weird. That is an interesting one. I don't have a fear of piercings, but I have a fear of medical needles. I'm going to have to look at that. I don't know what that means. But anyway. Maybe it's to do with the fact that they quite often want to draw blood, and I don't, I don't like giving my blood to anyone. Because blood's very sacred. Actually, I'm in Mexico when I cut my finger open, the land wanted my blood. I remember doing a spell once, and I went to see my mother, who was in a dementia care home, and on my way down it started to rain, and then I slipped over and I scraped my knee open like a small child. And I bled everywhere, and I immediately knew that there was some kind of blood sacrifice being asked for the spell, so I undid the spell, because I didn't want it being linked to blood magic at that time. So I removed that spell. But yeah, there's something about blood. Maybe that's the story next. Well, who knows? Let's see. Oh, Wassail D. I haven't said Wassail to everyone. I'm so sorry. So, we've got two cards, one on the table and one hidden in the deck. So we have Unwill. Unwill is really interesting. It's a kind of stop-start energy. It's a kind of Wheel of Destiny energy. But it's also an energy that's to do with, I wanted to say revolution/resolution. It's like understanding the difference between being difficult and being constructive in how you deal with a blockage. So you can kick out, you can be angry, you can do all of that energy, or you can move into an energy of understanding where you then move the wheel. Now with this, I always look at the cards around it, particularly the card that comes after it. And the fact that it was caught in the deck tells me that this is an energy at the moment that feels stuck. Oh. And it's followed by the card that's on the table, which is Guerre or Gear. It depends how you want to say it. There are really no rules because we have no idea. There was a great vowel shift that took place, and all sorts of letters and things, because originally, you know, we were writing our letters with these symbols, then we moved to the italic alphabet, and there were different developments. As I said, the W, the V, the K is a hard C, and then the soft C that came from the French language. So many variations. But what am I getting from this? I'm getting that there's a potential to move your energy forwards, to move. There's something within this card that's both a resistance and a sense of willpower. It's your willpower to harvest. It's your choice to decide if you want to move from the staticness, the closed energy, like as if there's applied pressure to your life just being squeezed in by societal expectation, and it's your willpower to move. But Guerre is also a card that wasn't when I originally looked at it, but it's a card that talks about putting things into a storeroom of the future. So you have a future storehouse, and the future storehouse is made up of part of your Nornic tapestry, part of that energy that people would call quite often a karma. And I don't really like that word, because in Norse mythology there's no karma. There's just a tapestry, and everything you did you were meant to do. But that tapestry is one linear timeline. Now, you get given the option in this deck with Needle and other cards to actually push into a new direction and start stitching onto a new dimensional tapestry that has the same beginnings that you had on your old tapestry, but it's a point at which you decide to move to some kind of new dimensional possibilities with a new future storeroom. Yes, again, it will all be laid out, but you can go in first of all and work out what you would like to see in your future storerooms that are feeding themselves backwards into your now, but free of swelginess. You can't take the past with you as an active energy. It has to somehow be a passive energy. That's interesting. So, it's also interesting, it just reached 51 minutes, and that is the number of swelginess. So it's present, and it makes itself present, but it's passive. Turn your past into the passiveness that it really is. So, I'll have a sip of coffee again. I need a napkin. Actually, this is a serviette. In British, I was talking with Olga this morning, a napkin is made from cloth and a serviette is made from paper. Whereas servietta is a towel, I think. So we've got the next card. Ula. Ule. Owl. This is owl and its senses, but it's also owl senses. So what do we know about an owl? They have sharp, sharp vision, sharp, sharp hearing, and a stillness, a focus when still. So maybe the point of Unwill is to still yourself, to take out all of the churning, whirling swelginess energy and just sit in a now moment. And in that now moment, to reach out your senses, all of the senses. So adjust your perception and see, hear, smell, taste, reach, and feel with your inner owl wisdom what's there. What's there in your world, and also what's there in your future. Ask yourselves a question. It's what I'm being told to ask you to ask yourselves. Ask yourselves a question. Do you deserve a better life? Do you deserve a better life? And of course the answer is yes. Everybody deserves a better life. So if you deserve a better life and you know that everybody deserves a better life, your future storerooms have somehow got to be filled with better lives for everybody, not just yourself. So this has got an energy of community, of unity, of oneness. Now, what's interesting about oneness is that we can all learn in this moment to reach out and feel and understand that we are all one with everything. Everything. You know, I'm one with this cushion, I'm one with all of you. But if you want to be one with everything in a kind of source frequency of some kind of super deity, some kind of supreme energy, then you need to understand that that energy kind of only knew itself. So there's a meditation which I did in Lisbon, which was to appreciate and understand and explore what it would mean to be God, because that's a very uncomfortable energy. Messiah complex. It's one people have to be careful of. I could sit here and say, I am an instrument of God and I am delivering God's word. Well, we're all that. We are all that. But you have to be aware of where you draw the line on becoming a distortion of truth. Because at any point, if you move into a God complex, if you really explore what it means to be a God, God was alone. Whatever God is, whatever source energy is, it's alone. And in order to explore itself, it broke itself into lots and lots and lots and lots of fragments that we often call the Big Bang. But it made a physical world to explore endless possibilities. But people often talk about how they pray to deities and they get very little response. My mother was someone who was obviously brought up in a Christian tradition, but once my brother died, she could no longer believe in a God that would bring her such pain. And so she stopped looking. But there's a sense somehow that whatever the source energy is, it broke apart to explore itself, but it didn't put any rules on how you explore yourself. It didn't put any judgment on what exploration you did. It just allowed each energy, each life to explore its own world without judgment. And there's always that sense I get, which is whatever you've done in your life, when you pass over, when you die, when you leave this incarnation, you're just welcomed back with open arms because there's no judgment. You explored yourself, and that's the key. Exploring yourself and not following the exploration of others. Find your own Raza exploration. It's that, yes, it is a human imagination, but it's everything. Everything has a spirit. Everything to me is alive with magic. But it's how you view your world that shows you how much magic you witness in things. Do you look at a flower, tiny flower, as you're out walking somewhere that just catches your eye? Do you stop and look at the flower in wonder? Or do you just carry on in your journey? Because the more you explore the awe of the world around you, the more awe the world will deliver to you, and the more magic. It's all there. The veil can be lifted at any moment. It can also, I will say, spook the hell out of you. Because the more you allow it to happen, the more frequently the magic reveals itself. And that can become really quite frightening. Because suddenly the world is so full of magic that it no longer feels real. So open your senses, stand still, look at your future storerooms, look at what you would like to harvest from life. So we in the spiritual community are obsessed with past lives, and this is a really important message. We are obsessed with the past. What were you in the past? Oh, that's why you've got a shit life now, is because you were this in the past. No, when you left that past life, whatever source is, whatever spirit is, it welcomed you back lovingly. It opened its arms and it didn't judge you. It doesn't even, in all honesty, it doesn't even forgive you the things you did. You explored. And some people explore some very ugly things. But everything has to be available so that we can develop and change and make a different world. We can recognize that when we come down again, we might not explore disappointment or shame or judgment. But right now we are in a world that does. But when we go back, we're always forgiven everything. So all this obsession with past lives and karma, to me, it was let go of. When you came again, you were making a new life, a new exploration. And part of this energy that I feel is explore the future storerooms and imagine lives you will lead. I mean, in many ways, I've always said, I don't feel like I've had any past lives. And maybe that's always been a protective vehicle so that I could actually focus on future lives, which I may have already lived because time's so warped. But the point is start to imagine all of the lives ahead of you that are loving and beautiful in a society that cares for everybody, looks after everybody, is very loving. And then that energy has to start feeding back into your present. So it's how you see your future, not your past, that will make the difference here. Looking for one more card for this napkin. And I'm not trying to guess what it can be. So this is coming out completely differently again, this Egel Shamir card today. It's coming out at the very end of the energy, which is, look, when you do this, when we live, when we explore being alive, there are occasions when we just trip, we fall over. And when we fall over, there's a whole team of spirits and ancestors and frequencies that will protect you, that will pick you back up and make you feel safe until you're ready to explore some more. So this is about having the confidence to explore, but also having the courage to admit to moments when you just need some comfort from spirit. And spirit will always comfort you. But when you call in Egel Shamir protection or Archangel Michael protection or any kind of protection from ancestors or spirit, nothing gets through their protection, good or bad. So know that the best protection is your own confidence, but sometimes our own confidence buckles. Sometimes we fall over. Sometimes we need to be picked back up and protected and held. And then when we're ready, we move back into our own confidence and move forwards. So I'm looking at this and I want to move the energies. So I'm putting these two together first. And I'm saying it's a reminder that protection that we call upon will stop our world, okay? It will hold us in balance. So you could call in the ancestral or the spiritual protection to stop all the energy around you. And in that stillness, it's yours to explore how you would like to move forwards. So then I've got reaching out with all your owl senses into the future to harvest energy. So again, it's just looking at the energies that you're presented with and shifting them around till they make you feel a little more comfortable in how you explore you and life. Because everything is an exploration of life in the physical. And sometimes life in the physical can be really uncomfortable. But I'm not going to add any other cards to this one. I'm quite happy. You might not be. But I'm quite happy with those 4 cards as an energy. yes, when we stop energy, we are still together, we are still connected. But the point being that nothing flows through you. The spiritual protection is so profound, it doesn't allow growth. It holds you static. For me, that's how I see it. So I don't often call in ancestral protection or any protection. I just wander out into the world and let all of the energies that I absorb knock me for six sometimes. But it's facing things. It's going ahead. I mean, when Joanna was coming, she said we could go on the cable car, and I said, oh, I don't know. And then we made a vague plan where we were like, we'll see what the weather does before we decide what to do. And then the first thing that happened was the sun came out. She took me straight there, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to face my fears. But sometimes that's really important, to just move past things. So, beautiful people, 6-6, static. See, I think the message is find a peace, find a calm, because that's 12-6-6 in the deck. Finding a calm, finding a space, finding an energy of stillness in which you can explore yourself in the now and then plan these future storerooms. Try and transform the way in which a lot of the spiritual community talks about the karma of the past. To me, you are forgiven with your karma. If you are picking up a journey of ancestral trauma, it's not yours, but it's an energy within your DNA that needs to be dealt with, appreciated, and put to bed, so that the ancestors can clap their hands and move forward. And I don't feel often that the ancestors have left or trapped in their past energy. They're kind of echoes in time, but they can still connect with those echoes. But sometimes they would like to let those echoes, the roots that those echoes have done, be pulled up. Sometimes there are things that need to be weeded and removed. And part of going on a journey to find yourself is to weed out what isn't you and just keep growing what really is truly your frequency. So beautiful people, I'm gonna catch my breath. And see if I can face the energy of going out and exploring a crazy crowd of people dressed in purple, looking very disturbing. Look them up. Look up keto, purple outfits, and you'll see what I mean. There's something disturbing, and I'd quite like the church to change their costume tradition, because for me it's a really uncomfortable look. Anyway, also, which is really weird, there's a lot of self-flagellation goes on in these things, and I'm not sure I can deal with that energy. I've seen pictures of people from keto dressed half in purple, fairly naked on their upper half, which is weird since the church is not a great lover of nudity. But they wear crucifixes on their back made from 2 pieces of cactus digging into their body. And that doesn't seem like a very Liffruma frequency, but it goes on. Self-punishment. We're not doing self-punishment here, we're moving past it. So, beautiful people, have a lovely day today, and I'll see you all whenever. I can't promise anything. I've got to stop promising things that I don't know, because time does what it does. So wassail, beautiful.